have your company on this Wednesday. You're watching The Jump thanks to Hungry Jack's. The burgers are better. Just 2 more sleeps until the NBL Championship series tips off. It's the Sydney Kings and the New Zealand Breakers. We'll have a little preview for you coming your way. And NBL great Daryl McDonald is set to join us on The Jump tonight. Plus LeBron's ankle. Are the Lakers cooked? All that and more coming up. Andrew Gazey, Leonard Copeland and Kane Pittman, welcome to you all. We're finally close after such a long wait for this series.
It is. It's exciting, and there'll be a lot of nervous people around the Sydney Kings and the New Zealand Breakers on the cusp of doing something that's very, very hard, Coach. You know how hard it is to win a championship, and getting this close, there'd be a lot of anxiety, and they've had a long time to think about it.
I don't think the Sydney Kings will be as nervous. They've done it before. They know what to go through. The crowds are excited. They're ready to win, man, I think.
All right, well, before we dive straight into it, it all starts on Friday night at Kudos Bank Arena. It's the Kings and the Breakers.
We are underway at Kudos Bank Arena. And Walton Jr. to the other end.
Well, let's start with the Sydney Kings. And I want 3 reasons why the Kings can go back-to-back. Gazey, start with you.
Well, when you've got very little separating these two teams, you look for those little intangibles, and I think the home court advantage could possibly kick in. And the fact that they've been there before, and yes, they've got 3 different imports, and there's not a lot of new faces, but the leadership, you talk about DJ Vasiljevic and Xavier Cooks, the MVP, and of course the coach, Chase Buford. Though I've been there, done that, and the confidence that can bring to the group is immeasurable. So very, very little difference between these two teams. Great offense in the Sydney Kings, the best in the competition against one of the best defensive teams in the New Zealand Breakers. We should see a contrast in styles, and whichever team can impose their will is going to have the advantage. And for me, that leans slightly towards the Sydney Kings without a lot of margin.
Oh, it's going to be really interesting. You mentioned the home court advantage. Copes, how much does that play into it? Because we know that the New Zealand Breakers have sold out Game 2 at Spark Arena, Kudos Bank Arena for Game 1. I'm not sure it's quite sold out, although the Sydney Kings fans do turn out.
Oh, believe me, the fans will turn out. Home court advantage can help you, and it can hurt you, though. You know, sometimes when you're at home, you have to worry about getting tickets for your family. Every friend calls you, they want free tickets. Yeah. And it's a burden. But I think with the Sydney Kings, because they've been there and they've done this before, they know how to handle it. So whenever you have 3 games at home, you got to give that edge to the Sydney Kings.
You've had 2 weeks to figure out the tickets.
No, bro. Let me tell you something.
You've got the tickets sorted.
No, bro. No, bro. Trust me, I've been there. I've been in the grand final, and people you haven't seen in months call you and say, Leonard, I seen you last week. You got any free tickets?
How do you prioritise them?
Well, with me, it was hard for me. I don't know how I did it, but I had a lot of people, a lot of help. Trust me, a lot of help.
Such a popular man is our
Oh, she's so funny.
Kane, what are the Kings? What's your reason? Why can they win it?
I think the difference, Gazey kind of pointed to it there, is the offense. And the Kings are the only team in the league, top 3 in offense and defense. So, and I think over the balance of the season, we have seen them have more firepower on the offensive end. And part of that is they play at the fastest pace, Gazey, and they like to get out in transition. It starts with Xavier Cooks, but they are also an extremely efficient offensive team when it comes to shooting the 3. They don't waste possessions. They don't take poor shots, and they're second in the league for that 3-point percentage.
And their tempo, I think, of the New Zealand Breakers will test the Sydney Kings, because the Breakers, they do really well on the half court, and that automatically slows the game down. And if they can shoot at a really good clip, the New Zealand Breakers, and you're taking the ball out of the net, although the Kings, if you see moves like that and what they can do in transition, it is really, really tough. But New Zealand are well equipped to try and impose their will on the game, slow it down, try and make it more of a defensive grind. And if that happens, well, the Kings are going to be tested.
I think you still got to give more credit to Chase Buford, though. When you have that team they had last year with 3 great imports, you lose all 3 of them, and you come back.
Now you're starting to come across.
No, I'm not coming across. I'm just giving you reasons why Sydney are very good, and it's their system. Chase Buford knows what he's doing. And I don't expect him to be in this league a long time. If he wins it this year, expect Chase Buford to be going somewhere else. I called it. It's a big call.
Okay, look at you. You're just pumping yourself up tonight. He's up and about, is Leonard Copeland. Let's switch the focus to the New Zealand Breakers because they are such a wonderful story. They finished bottom of the table last season, but Modi Mayor has been able to turn this team around, and they had two tough years with COVID as well. They've been through so much, this group. Copes, you were red hot on them. Our jump promo day, you were saying in amongst about 1,000 push-ups that the New Zealand Kings, the New Zealand Breakers were going to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
Are you
well,
still on
I had a premonition. I had a dream, and maybe look how close I am right now. But there's reasons why this team is very good. Now, speak of imports, they have 3 of the best imports in the league right now. They score the ball extremely well, but they play great defense, man. I love the way they play defense, and they're taking it personal. And you got to remember, we talk about the old New Zealand and the troubles they've been in the last couple of years. This is a new team. They're taking it personal. You coming in their house, they're not hearing that. They got Pardon, who plays exceptional defense as a big man. They got Brantley, who can score and play defense, and they got Barry Brown Jr., one of the best guards in the league.
And Brantley, when they played recently, he did a number on the Sydney Kings. Dropped 30, had 9 boards.
32, bro.
Was it 32? My bad. But he's shown against that Sydney Kings team. But the thing about all of this is the depth and how they've gone in. Both teams would have done a deep, deep dive into each team because they've had 2 weeks to prepare for it. So that can negate some of those strengths and weaknesses, and that's why I lean on those intangibles. But if you're the New Zealand Breakers, that's the thing you hung your hat on all season, is the defence.
Yep.
They're exceptional at it. They go deep. They're very versatile. And with what they switch a lot of switching defence. And Derek Pardon as a big, he comes out and is as good as anyone when he's hard showing or he's switching of keeping the little guys in front. So he's going to be a handful. And if they can if the New Zealand Breakers can take away the offensive transition, forcing the Kings into shots in the last 8 seconds rather than the first 8 seconds, I think that helps them. That'll give them a better chance because the Kings have been elite in transition.
Kane, I want to ask you about the depth of this Breakers side because you look at the bench, they certainly run deep.
Well, they do, but if you look at the scoring punch when it comes to the New Zealand bench, a lot of it comes from one guy. Barry Brown, the best 6th man in the league. He gets you 20 points a night. He won
every night.
He won them that game 3 against Tasmania with the 32 points there. So a lot of it comes down to him. And then you look at the role players. You've got Isaiah Liafa on the bench, Tommy Vodanovic, who might be looking for his 2nd title in a row against his old team. And they do a lot of spot-up stuff. And they run the pick and roll. They get these guys in position, standing on the wings and in the corners. So, again, this is a team, as Gazey pointed to, that likes to function in the half court.
Well, you saw Rob Lowe, and he really stretches the floor. Now, he's a guy that throughout the course of the season, he might have had a couple of DNP's coach's decision along the way, but he's worked his way back into the rotation. I think Will McDowell-White is going to be absolutely critical. We've seen a couple of games where they blitzing him and they're trapping him, and if Sydney Kings gets into that press and get the ball out of his hands, and also his ability to deal with that pressure. He's a superstar. He's had his best season yet in the NBL, and the New Zealand Breakers better have very.
You sound like you're switching over here, Gazey, the way you're talking about New Zealand. What's going on?
I'm just saying they've got a lot to deal with, but they're going to need a very, very deep pockets to sign Will McDowell-White because he has been
and he's a free agent.
Good, but they've got a championship to win. Like I said, I'm leaning more towards the Sydney Kings, but there's a lot to like about it, and that extended defence could be the thing that gets New Zealand in a more up-tempo style of play as well.
So you're leaning towards the Kings. Do you also have a prediction when it comes to a series MVP?
Wow. Well, I guess you got to go with Xavier Cooks because he's been the league MVP. He did it last year. He's their go-to guy, so there's no reason to think why he wouldn't be.
Copes,
Xavier Cooks 100% for me. You know I'm a Xavier
What
Cooks
about
fan.
your series? Now, I'm interested in this because you've been all over the New Zealand Breakers.
Place. Talk about me sitting on the
You're not
fence.
going to be a turncoat now,
Ridiculous.
No.
Pick it to Copeland. Get it out of the date and get off it, please.
Wow.
Please.
Listen,
Give us your tip.
my tip for the win
The series.
or the
Who's
series.
going to win the
Who's going
championship?
to win?
I'm going with New Zealand, bro. I've been with New Zealand the whole time. I'm telling you.
In the pre-production meeting,
I just wanted you guys to hear me, but when we started this thing, who did I pick, Kane?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Kane, who did I pick when we started this?
I think that you were just starting to swerve a little bit, but
Yep.
you've come back, which I think is the admirable thing to do here because you've been on the Breakers all year. It is
Kane.
too late to switch now. I think the Kings, but I think the Breakers' defence makes me believe that this is not going to end quickly.
No,
I
of
think
course.
5 games.
Yeah, and the thing I don't understand, as we look around and a lot of the reports are going on, is why so many people have jumped off the Sydney Kings.
Not sure.
I mean, here's a team where they lose 9 games, and let's be honest, the last 2, well, they didn't throw them, but they certainly didn't play to win. They weren't upset with the losses. To only lose 7 games, I know they lost 9, but there was a couple in there with asterisks next to them. That is phenomenal, and to be able to produce that week in, week out for the extended period of time, I just don't understand why some people have really gone away from the Sydney Kings as a favourite
one
for
wants
this
them to
series. They've
win.
got home court advantage.
But I think it's just, they've
What does
won
that
it
mean?
before.
We won
People-
championship without home court advantage. We went to
No,
press
I'm just
what
saying
does
though,
that
but
mean?
when you look at those little things, why are they jumping off Copes?
Because you got 3 magnificent superstars.
Well, we cannot wait because it all starts on Friday night right here on ESPN, of course, the home of hoops. While we're on the topic of the NBL, we should, of course, talk about the Phoenix's search for a new coach. As we reported last week, Simon Mitchell has stepped away. Kane, who is in the mix? What are you hearing in this space?
Yeah, I think they're going to take their time, and there's going to be a lot of the names that we've heard in other coaching mixes. Obviously, Trevor Gleeson was in there, Mike Kelly's been in there, Judd Flavel is a guy that's come very, very close in a few other positions. And I think the other thing to watch is they're just going to take their time and see who's available overseas.
Well, I heard that they went a long way down the track with Trevor Gleeson,
Really?
and it's rumoured that he's eventually said, well, no, this is not for me. I want to stay in with the Toronto Raptors. And why wouldn't you go after Trevor Gleeson? He's won 5 titles. He's been a superstar, whether it was with Townsville, with what he did there, or with the Perth Wildcats with all those titles. He is going to be front and centre with any coaching job comes up. Brian Gorge and Trevor Gleeson are always going to be your first 2 calls. I'm hearing that Will Weaver is another one, the former Sydney Kings coach. That he's there. He's currently coaching in France and having a tough time. The team, when I last saw it, wasn't going that well. So maybe that could be an opportunity.
There seem to be
for them
recruit going after guys that have coached out of here before. You've coached out of here before, Gazey. Has anybody called you? Huh?
I'm still waiting. The phone's not
We're
ringing.
waiting for the role where we ask Gazey and he says yes, because every team we're going to ask the question.
Yeah, no calls.
All right, plenty more still to come on the jump. Of course, we've got Truth or Trash, one of our favourites, Daryl McDonald, still to join us. But first, before we get to that, Breakers coach Modi Mayo sat down with our very own Kane Pittman to talk about their week off.
Just getting the big interviews.
Barry Brown Jr. gives it to Pardon. Pardon. And what another one for Derek Pardon.
I think championship pedigree is something you need to prove, and you need to prove this over the length of a season. You need to prove this through challenges. You need to prove this through competing against the best. And I don't believe on championships on paper. We also didn't build this team with the idea of let's go win a championship. We built this team with the idea of if we can be one of the best defenses in the league, then we have a shot at making the playoffs. And once you make the playoffs, anything's possible.
Breakers are going back to the championship series. They last won a title in 2015. They got 4 of them hanging in spot. They want to add another.
It's not so much about who is driving these standards, it's about the fact that 1 to 16, everybody's a true partner in this. We don't have one person who is about anything else except for the things that we set to ourselves as goals. I think that's the real secret to it.
Barry Brown Jr. 3-ball.
I've loved the Barry Brown experience. I'm very proud of him. I'm very proud of the improvements he's made as a basketball player from the beginning of the season. If I need to describe his personality, I would use the word bubbly.
Rayan, so that game, or that trip that I came out to New Zealand was the one that he broke his wrist. I mean, I remember seeing him walking out the building and understandably looked upset, probably frustrated, thinking a lot of things about the future and right now and this team. What do you remember about that day and the days that followed in terms of how he responded?
He stayed. Who stays? How many 18-year-olds who are already kind of a lock for the first round, probably locked for the top 20, potentially locked for lottery, depends on who you read and what you look at. How many people stay when the business decision on that end the smart one might be to just call it like RJ, like LaMelo, even Giddy, who's local, got hurt towards the end of the season and pulled. And I'm just he just wants to play. He wants to compete. He wants to get better. And he wants to help this team win. We're playing for the highest stakes. It's a dream to be here. It really is all gravy now. The season has been good. We're happy about what we achieved. I feel good and confident in my team. We are having fun in practices. They're good. They're competitive. You're going towards playing against the best team in the league with a group of people that you really want to go to battle with. I don't think there's a better scenario for a coach.
I could watch those highlights all day and all night because he's one of the greatest players this country has ever seen. He's won 3 NBL titles. He's won an assist title 8 times. He's also led the league in steals 8 times. He's a genuine, bona fide superstar, Copes, and I speak of one of our former teammates and one of the greats of our game, Daryl McDonald. Hey, D-Mac, were you sitting back and watching those highlights of yourself there?
I've seen those highlights a lot. I've seen them a lot.
Do you marvel at some of your work? I mean, you had eyes in the back of your head. How you had a feel for the game and able to find your teammate was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, that was the thing I used to love to do. So, yeah, always loved looking at the highlights. You go back and check them out and go, wow, yeah, that used to be pretty nice.
D-Mac, let's go back to 1994 when you won the championship.
Yeah.
You were MVP. You were voted second MVP. You lost by 1 vote. Do you think you got robbed? And who robbed you? And who robbed you, Mac?
He never got robbed.
I would never say that. I would never think that. He beat me fair and square.
You're good.
But I would have loved. I ain't gonna lie. I would have loved that one. I would have loved that one. My first year. That would have been awesome.
Hey, Mac, when we watch you play and you came from the States, you were playing from New York. What brought you to Australia? Was it something that you sought out, or did Brett Brown, who was the coach of the North Melbourne Giants back then, did he seek you out?
Brett kind of seeked me out. I was playing in the CBA. I was in Sioux Falls, South Dakota at the time. But what kind of took the cake? I knew they took point guards, and I knew Ricky Grace was over here. And I played against Ricky. He didn't play the game. But I went to Texas A&M. He went to Oklahoma, and we played 1 game against each other. But we played together in the junior college All-Star game. So I knew Ricky, and I knew they took point guards. So that was it. And I kind of wanted to get out of the CBA too. So it wasn't even about money. It was just trying to move on and go somewhere different. And heard it was a great country. And 29 years later, man, I'm still here.
Mac, let's go back a bit further. The Rucker Park. What did you learn? How long did you play at Rucker Park, and what did you learn in Rucker Park?
I played in Rucker for like years. Like before it even went to Rucker, I used to play it was 145th Street, Lenox Avenue. It's called Chicks All Stars. That's kind of where I, really, really started. Rucker Park came a little bit later. But you just learn, you just hoop. You know what I mean? And one thing about Rucker is, again, for myself, because I had a name, when you're playing against guys want to kind of take your name. They want to go at you. So you become really, really good at just playing one-on-one basketball. You know what I mean? And you get an opportunity to go against some of the best guys. And you got to stand up. You don't stand up, then it's pretty obvious what happens. The same thing. It still goes on to this day. Basketball a lot of it is one-on-one, but If you can score and break people down off the dribble and things like that, Rucker Park was pretty good.
Well, I don't know if you saw those highlights, and as much as we love you, that wasn't all you. That was just Rucker Park that we saw out there, and how popular basketball is. And I was in New York, and I was with you back in '99, and the thing that stuck out to me is that walking around New York, I mean, you were famous. I'm walking down the street, and everyone's going, "Oh, that's Daryl McDonald. There's D-Mac. There's D-Mac." Is that just part and parcel of doing well at places like?
You know what? I think it's because it was a finals. It was the Spurs and the Knicks, and it was basketball. So we was in an area where basketball was. You know what I mean? And just going, being at Madison Square Garden, being down in that area, and that's why it seems like that. You know what I mean? But I was actually surprised myself, but I like it.
Mac, did anybody recognize Andrew Gazey?
No.
Did anybody know who Andrew Gazey was?
That was like Seton
In
Hall.
New York City, all brothers. Come on.
Actually, I can't remember, but I know Grant. I was with Grant, Grant Kadeep, and we hung out a little bit. And after the game was pretty cool when I actually picked those guys up, like Drew, and I think it was Will Perdue, and who else was there? Somebody
Steve
else
Kerr might have been there.
Back to the hotel.
Yeah.
That was pretty sweet.
Nice.
Hey, Mac, when you think back to those days and what you were able to achieve, it was a phenomenal time for the sport. It was really growing and going places, and you come to the North Melbourne Giants and you blokes sit in a 2-3 zone the whole time and win a championship.
And we shot you out that zone too, Mac. Don't act like we didn't shoot you out that zone, bro.
Y'all didn't.
A few years later in the semi-finals, we might have shot.
Did y'all shoot us out?
Yes, sir. You know it.
You know what? There's one person who shot us out that zone, and I'll never forget him. I'll never forget that. And it was Shane Hill. He came in the glass house and dropped like 45 on us. And he was shooting threes from where Damian Lillard and Steph Curry shoots from now. He was doing it. He did it in '94. We just couldn't believe it. We still ended up winning the championship that year, though. So
yeah, that's right. But did you know anything about Australia before you actually came here?
A little bit, a little bit. I knew what Brett told me. You know what I mean? Like, again, I wasn't expecting to come out and play zone the whole year, but it worked. It kind of worked for us. But like I said, the main thing was, again, point guards. Like, I knew they took point guards here, so that was just perfect for me. Like, I played, I was playing the 2 and the backup 1 in the CBA. So, opportunity. Brett saw me playing. He was actually looking at somebody else, which is interesting. He was looking at somebody else on my team and then thought, maybe I'm looking at the wrong guy. And then I ended up over here.
Mac, you said you've been here a long time. 29 years is a long time. Now, can you give me some differences between basketball back in our day and basketball today in the NBL?
Cash. I think that's got a lot to do with it. But on the basketball side, I mean, I guess it's a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if it's different. Maybe the athleticism is different. Players are different. I got back then guys still could shoot the ball. Now I think again with Steph Curry kind of changing that narrative and just being able to put up threes. A lot of guys are shooting threes. Remember back then it was Jordan. Everybody wanted to kind of be like Jordan. You know what I mean? But now I guess being able to shoot the 3 ball is pretty big. And when you're recruiting, most teams are looking for guys that can do that. You know what I mean? But it's basketball, man. I think that's the thing. I think players have gotten better. There's no doubt players have gotten better. Everything has gotten better from back then. You know what I mean? Where you think ball handling, some of your best ball handlers, Isaiah Thomas and Allen Iverson and those guys, Ross Strickland and those guys. Based on now, it's like, everybody's great ball handler. You look at Kyrie Irving, Steph Curry, Dame Lillard. Who else is there? There's so many to name, but everybody, you just pretty much could do everything. And like I said, you got a lot of shooters, some shooters now, but everybody's a shooter now. You know what I mean? And there's still athletes. But again, back then, I think it's more athletes now than it was back then. I think a lot of that has to do with It could be medicine. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But you probably got more athletes now than you had back then.
Hey, Mac, the thing I love about you the most is you're a basketball junkie. You love playing. You've coached at a whole bunch of different levels, and now you're taking an opportunity in Brisbane after spending most of your time, of course, here in Melbourne, and had a experience as a head coach in an interim basis as well. What is it about this opportunity that took you to Brisbane?
Shula called me. Like when he got the job, he gave me a call, and just to find out if I was interested. And it was more, again, like you said, opportunity. There was an opportunity to kind of move up. At Melbourne, I was behind. I was a third assistant behind him and Reese. And now going to Brisbane, and I'll be a second, but I'll be behind. He'll be the head coach, and I'll be behind Vanderjack. But my role changes a little bit. Probably do more. Like I'll get an opportunity to do more, and things like that. But yeah, it was just again, the opportunity to probably do more than what I was doing. You know what I mean? But again, at Melbourne, at United, I had my say. I did what I had, but I did a lot of off-court stuff, and even to this day, I'm still, I still got to finish some stuff up. But basketball at United it was great. Like again, even to this day, you're always learning, and I learned a lot from Dean, I learned a lot from Shula, I learned a lot from Reese, and just want to kind of carry that, what I know, and carry what I learned over to Brisbane and try to turn that thing around. You know what I mean? The main thing we want to do is try to make it a club, where we develop. You know what I mean? And again, we still got to win. I think we're gonna put a solid group together and try to get in the finals. Once you get in the finals, then anything can happen.
Mac, you're known for working with your guards and your imports. Now you got guys like Jason Kadee and Sobey in Brisbane. What are you expecting from them, and how do you make them better?
You know what? It's more kind of just adding to what they have. You know what I mean? Those guys can already play. You know what I mean? I'll sit down, I'll look at video, I'll check and see where I think I can help them. It's a situation where I don't know I don't know how much more you can teach them. It's just helping them and try to add to what they already have. You know what I mean? And those guys they're national team players. They played on the national team. I'll sit down, I'll see what I see, and just try to add to that. You know what I mean? And we'll see. Like it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, but it's also about them also wanting to learn. You know what I mean? Not everybody sees these things the same. You'll get some guys. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to work on that. Okay, well, that's the thing. I'll find out what they want to work on also, and help them in that regards.
Well, all you need to do is bring out some of those highlights, Mac, and you'll get instant respect. Mac, before we let you go, we've got the grand final series starting up. Who's your tip?
It's hard to...
Come on, man, get off the fence, man. Tell us who you know. No fence. It's hard to go against Sydney, but I'm taking the Breakers. I just like the way they've gone about it. It goes back where they come from. I think Modi just put a solid group together. They're great defensively, and we know Sydney. We know what they're going to bring to the table. But I just I like what New Zealand has. I think they can get them. Could be in 4 maybe.
Well, there you go. Hey, Mac, it's 29 years of unbelievable service to the sport and to the NBL. We thank you for that. The journey continues with you with the Brisbane Bullets, and thanks so much for joining us here on The Jump this evening.
No problem.
Don't leave without paying me my money, Mac. You owe me some money. Don't leave without paying me my money before you go to Brisbane.
Thanks for having me. I got you, man. I'll make sure you get it.
See you, Mac. Appreciate
Good man, Mac.
Copes knows a good way to end an interview. D-Mac there, that was a terrific chat. Thanks, Copes and Gazey. On the other side of this break, truth or trash coming up on The Jump, and Dame Lillard headlines that. But first, some of the NBA's brightest stars sat down with Malika Andrews to talk all the big topics.
Good room.
How you doing? You just want to talk.
Hey, bro. You know the question they gonna ask me.
Who do you look at around the league as you're studying and say, we're gonna have to run through them?
Celtics.
No one in the West.
Nah, I'm fine in the West.
What question?
Fine in the West. Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you got the Celtics represented right here.
They ain't gonna let me lay that one down. You might as well get that one out the way. You might as well start out with that.
All right. Raise your hand if you're fine in the West. You're not fine.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't want this to sound like the beginning of a wedding ceremony or like a marriage, but we're gathered here today, if you will, because the future of the game, it's in your hands. LeBron is in year 20. Steph Curry is in year 14. Kevin Durant was drafted in 2007. It's you. You're nodding. Is that, yeah? You get that weight, Don?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I think we all recognize it in our different ways. You know, I think it's something that we don't take lightly. We gotta go out there and perform on a nightly basis to make sure we stay in that light.
Donovan Mitchell goes for 71 points.
It felt like last year you were in the finals. It was a little bit of old school, if you will, versus new school, one of your own, kind of on that stage. Did you feel that shift coming then?
I think you could say that. With them going to, Western Conference Finals, it's our time now. But the older guys still holding on a little bit, as they should. But we're on our way.
Jason Tatum with the triple. Tatum on the cut, takes it all the way and slams it.
Who's the best player in the game right now?
If I had to pick, I think I might say Giannis.
Giannis taking flight and taking no prisoners.
How he impacts both sides, scoring, rebounding, how hard he plays. And we all have off nights, but I feel like when he has an off night, it's still 25 and 15 instead of 40 and 20. And he's won a championship.
These two, since they're fine in the West, you have to go through Giannis in the East. So, good luck
I would
with
say
that.
Giannis too, for sure.
Off the screen for three. Damian Lillard knocks down a triple. Biggs hangs, finds Dame, step back three, powered it up and in. Windmilling his arms, Blazers by 10, a burst into the lane, flushed him with a right hand. Tate with him, sets his feet, leans back for three, got it. Damian Lillard, a career high. High dribble, into the lane, running right-hander, up and in, Damian Lillard. With that runner, 71 points, a career high.
We got, I think, 23, 22 games left after this. And we need to win as many as possible. And, obviously being shorthanded, I know that it's going to be a team effort, but I feel like I got to, do my best to be aggressive and just try to do what I can to make sure that we get some wins. And, that's all the case was tonight. I wanted to be in attack mode. I came out, I saw it go in a few times. And I just stayed aggressive. I didn't ease up. I didn't, try to back off or anything. Second half, they came out and gave me a lot of attention, and I just wanted to be patient. I didn't want to try to come out and get back on the heater. So I just kept making the right plays.
It certainly was Dame time. Portland star Dame Lillard with an unbelievable performance against Houston. 71 points, if you don't mind. He became the 7th player in NBA history to score 70-plus points. It was amazing, and that is where we start Truth or Trash tonight. Copes, I'm coming at you.
I'm up first.
Dame Lillard,
yes, sir,
without a title, is just a great scorer, not an NBA great. Truth or Trash?
Bit harsh now.
Oh.
That's trash. That's trash. When I think of Dame Lillard, I think of loyalty. Because he stood by this team the whole time. He's averaging 32 points a game, 7 assists, 4 rebounds.
$50 million a year.
That's right.
Help you become very
and
loyal.
look, he just had 71 points. But he's not doing like all the other All-Stars, trying to go join up with 3 or 4 different All-Stars. Yeah. He's trying to do it like Giannis, your boy. He's trying to do it the right way, Kane.
NBA great, though. I mean, that
great.
is an elite category.
That's right.
I think he's got a bit of work to do, and you need to win a few more games to become an NBA great. potentially an NBA great, absolutely. And I don't think you need to win a championship to be an NBA great. Just hello, Charles.
Would you have him
Barkley.
on your team?
My word, I would.
All right, then.
But NBA great coach.
He's a great, bro.
Already a great.
Made the NBA 75 team, so top 75 player of all time. That's pretty good.
That shut you down, didn't it? That shut you up, didn't it?
And there's only 7 players in the NBA who did.
That's right.
Yeah, but I don't know whether...
Top 75, he's great.
I think you need to win a little bit more than what he's done to be in that category. Now, I think he's individually spectacular, and I love him to death. He's one of my favourite players. Love to watch him.
He's just not great.
He's great. And he probably will be a great when all is said and done. But I think
you don't want to throw it around easily, I guess. That's the point.
Okay.
Okay.
Next up.
Exactly what I want.
Next up. Kane, up to you.
Okay.
LeBron James' ankle is the end of the Lakers wanting to make some noise.
Well, it will be truth if we continue to not be able to rely on Anthony Davis. And this is the big question now. They traded for him a few years ago. Obviously, they won that title in the bubble. So that means that the trade will always be a win in my books at least. But Anthony Davis, they won that in 2020. 2021, he only played 36 games, only played 40 games in 2022, and only played 38 games so far this year. He's already missed 26. So the question is, when the Lakers made this trade, they absolutely were hoping that Davis was going to be the #1 man on this team by 2023, and he's still not. That's the reality. LeBron is the best player on this team at 38, and that's why they're in trouble.
Interesting.
Hard to argue against that.
I agree.
They might have been in trouble even if he was there.
That's right. That is very, very true.
Him,
but they have started playing better with the new guys that Russell and the new guy that's brought in. They're starting to play a little bit better.
The team is better built. There's no question. Gazey.
Talk to me.
Coming to you, and we're swinging back to the NBL here, and we're talking about the New Zealand Breakers about to enter the NBL.
Oh, be careful here.
Truth or trash? Rayan Rupert has toughed his way up the draft board.
Well, when you say toughed his way up, I assume you're talking about the injury he had, the wrist injury. He was out of the game for a while, and it's not uncommon when you see guys that are in that lottery conversation or first-round conversation to pack it in and say, well, I've done enough. I'm going to be a first-round pick, so I won't play. So in the sense of toughing it up and continuing to play, absolutely. But this is a team that has a chance to win a championship. Unlike some of the other players that have come through in his same situation, they have not been in championship winning positions. So I can appreciate why. The numbers don't jump out of the page at you, but the ESPN draft prediction has him at around 16, and he's playing hard. And I think when you're around that sort of mid to late first round, you back yourself. You play well, you have a great final series, and who knows, that 16 could turn into an 8 or a 9, and that's cha-ching, cha-ching. So why wouldn't you? So he is toughing it out.
What about the character of him, though? Do you take that into account? Because the fact that he broke his wrist and was resilient enough to stick it out.
No. But what you're saying is implying that those others that were here didn't have that. They absolutely did. But they were in teams that were not
going anywhere
in the playoffs. They weren't on the cusp of winning, potentially winning a championship. Their seasons were done. So there's a big difference, and I'm sure it would have been a similar set of circumstance for the New Zealand Breakers and Ryan Rupert if they had been cooked as well.
Still a risk. It is still a risk.
Of course
because, as you say, he can win an NBL championship, but earning a first-round draft pick slot and all that money and a couple of years guaranteed deal is obviously going to be worth a lot more to his bank account and hopefully a long career in the NBA.
Hey, Nat, this is one I'm going to pose to you. The quality of the WNBL is off the charts this season.
I think we're meant to do the one before that first.
You
just skipped ahead.
Well, I had the arrow here and I thought you wanted to take it, but let's go to the NBL.
Okay, thanks.
The NBL, I'll shorten it. I'll take the W out. The NBL has never been healthier. And never been in a healthier position?
That is truth. It is in an incredible... And no knock on YouTube. No knock on YouTube, because in your day, that was the golden era. But when we're looking at the NBL right now, 46% up when it comes to TV ratings this season. Did you know that the NBL has more TikTok followers too than the AFL?
No.
That younger generation is really connecting with the NBL at the moment, and I reckon they've got a great hold on this.
46% up because they were down so low, so of course they're up. But back in the early 90s,
no one had TVs.
Oh, funny man over here. Don't get too close. You're catching me on fire here. Now,
but you guys did it without social media.
We did it without social media, and we had 15,000, Joey. Come on, bro.
Going to the old Kingdom in
Rod Laver Arena. Come on
I
now.
have to admit, looking at the NBL as it stands today,
fantastic.
it is in a fantastic.
We love it. Yep.
Hey, now, Coach, you know we are on ESPN, so the more people are watching, the better it is for us. So we're loving what's happening.
Of course, I love it. Fantastic.
Part of the broadcast, too, you can take some personal credit for those ratings rise.
All right, Kane, I'm coming at you, and this was Gazey's question to you. Truth or trash? The quality of the WNBL is off the charts.
Well, I wasn't expecting this question, I have to say, but I think this is an easy truth. Of course it has. They've gone off the back of the Women's World Cup in Sydney back in September, where there was packed-out crowds, and obviously Australia went on to win a medal, and I think we've seen that. I was fortunate enough to be at John Kane Arena a few weeks ago, and the way that, and I wrote about it, and the way that I saw it, everyone came to see Lauren Jackson play in that game. She only lasted 60 seconds, but by the end of the game, this full crowd was going absolutely ballistic because the quality was so great. So it's fantastic to see, and what you want to see is that it continues beyond, obviously, the crowds at certain stars.
And Townsville had a win tonight.
They did. 11 wins in a row for Townsville.
Basketball is alive in this country.
They are on fire at the moment. They beat the Bendigo Spirit, and of course, that top spot is still up for grabs. There's a lot of positions still up for grabs, of course, as they go into the final round of the regular season. So you don't want to miss a moment of that. The WNBL, of course, also here on ESPN.
Well, let's just continue to talk about some outstanding broadcasts that we've seen in recent times. And over the weekend, I was sitting down watching the Boomers against Bahrain and Kazakhstan, and the great man Andrew Gazey was on the call. And the question I've got for you...
And the great John Case.
Oh, no doubt. He did the heavy lifting. Superb from Case, no doubt. But we had come to expect that. Truth or trash? Todd Blanchfield should send the vision of this game to John Riley.
Oh, there's no doubt Johnny Riley was watching that game, and he could see a lot to like about what he was able to do. Hey, it was a tough... Let's be honest, it was a tough season for John Riley in the NBL. Averaged a little over 4 points.
You mean Todd Blanchfield?
Todd, what did I say?
John Riley.
Well, it was pretty tough for John because he went bald. You know, he really did it tough out there. But for Toddy Blanchfield, only averaged the little over 4 points a game. And shot it at 41%, 31% from the three-point line. But he showed what Todd Blanchfield can do. Now,
I'm going to go out on a limb.
Hang on, you've got to keep it in context. Yeah. Because let's be honest, Kazakhstan and Bahrain are not necessarily...
You still got to be able to knock the shot down.
Now, that's the thing. Now, I think it's going to be a decision where I think a lot of people would be interested in Todd Blanchfield. I think he's still got another 2 years to run. But it's one that Johnny really, now that he's seen what he can do, they're going to have to sit down, have some conversations. I believe Todd said, no, I'm all in on the Perth Wildcats, and I can't see any reason
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say,
want him.
If they don't play him, he needs to try to find another team.
Well, that's it.
Straight away.
But I think that there would be a lot of other teams interested in Toddy Blanchfield and their relationship and what he had to do. You can't really blame John really for it because the team turned around and had some good results. And sometimes there's some...
Casualties.
My brother.
You guys are just in sync. I love it. Finishing each other's sentences. The bromance is real with these two. Stay with us on The Jump. The Boomers, we'll talk about them next because these guys are going to name their most important Boomers heading into the World Cup. But first, before we get there, let's take a sneak peek of the latest episode of Unrivaled, an inside look inside the NBL. That is on Friday night, right here on ESPN.
I was over in Germany. There was probably a 6-month rough patch I had with back home. Just a lot of childhood friends passing away. So that was tough. I went to a psychiatric ward for a bit and I just didn't know how to deal with it.
My father was a professional in France. After he died when I was 8 years old, I was more strong in my head and it's a part of my motivation every day.
Good there with the left hand. That is tough to stop.
God damn it! They gotta defend! So I'm working 15-hour days, and that was an unpaid position. Living off noodles in share houses and being away from my son was a struggle.
Me and my family moved to Israel, and when you're 18 in Israel, you enlist into the military.
Want me to hold your hands and everything? Compete!
I was thrust into an environment where you really need to be great.
So the Boomers, well, they flexed their muscles beating Bahrain and Kazakhstan to make it through to the World Cup. Of course, they finished top of their group. They were kind of already through, so it was just a run-of-the-mill business as usual. Gazey, you were there.
I was.
It was a dominant performance, but what I want to get from the three of you now as we count down to this World Cup in August is who is your most important Boomer right now as it stands? Kane, we're going with you first.
All right, I can go first. I'm going with Jock Landale as well, and it might be an interesting selection, but I think when you look at the depth of this team, it has changed over the years, and Australia's been so fortunate to have Andrew Bogut and Aaron Baines, two starting quality NBA players that they could rely on for a decade. And now if you look at the future, you wonder moving forward where the big man stocks lie. Now, Aaron Baines, of course, could still be there, but this man was second in the team in scoring at the Tokyo Olympics, is a really excellent rebounder, gets out in transition, and he was also tied for first in three-point shooting. So we shouldn't underestimate the importance of the role that this man is going to play at the World Cup.
I like it, Jock Landale. Copes, who you got?
I'm going to go Josh Green, and I'll tell you why. Because he's younger, more athletic. He can shoot the ball from outside. Patty Mills, Joe Ingles are getting a bit older, so you're going to need someone to stretch the floor so your guy can do his thing on the box.
Yeah, I like it.
So you need, look, and the way he's playing now, he's getting major minutes for the Mavericks. He's playing quality minutes, and he's playing alongside one of the best players in the world. So he has that experience right now. He's stronger, he's bigger. He sort of takes the place of Thibault, I would think. He plays great defense, so I like Josh Green.
No, there's a lot to like about him for sure. Super athlete, can get out and run the floor, and this year, you're right, he's come of age.
What about you?
Well, I get where you're coming from with both you guys, but I'm going to go with the most experienced campaigner on the list, and I'm going to go with Patty Mills. And it's not just about the points that he puts on, as we saw, being the leading scorer for the Tokyo campaign, but it's what he provides to keep the group together. We speak a lot about culture. This guy is keeping in contact with these guys. When they were here last time, he took them to the Outback, he taught them a little bit about his culture, and really keeps the group together. So, he's not playing a lot. In fact, got a DNP today. But what he does for the Boomers goes beyond just what you're seeing right there as far as knocking down three balls. It's about how he maintains that culture, provides the experience and leadership which every great team needs.
Do you think he gets much game time in the end with the Boomers, given that next generation?
Of course he will. I think the big question is going to be Josh Giddey finding a spot with him and putting the ball maybe more in Josh Giddey's hands and having Paddy play off the ball and just run him off some screens and let him spread the floor with his shot. So there's a lot of tough questions that need to be answered by Brian Goorjian and the coaching staff. For the first time, we've got incredible depth.
And some big names are going to miss out. Everyone can't make it.
For sure. No,
well,
they can't.
Speaking of missing out, this is who made it into the World Cup, of course, later in August. And you can see there the list. Australia's on it. Co-host the Philippines will be on the world stage for the 6th time. South Sudan is just an incredible story because they have made it for the first time in their history. Several NBL players too in that team. But Gazey, Argentina, powerhouse. Not on that
Well,
list.
that's the big one. They lost to the Dominican Republic, I think, who ironically is coached by Nestor Garcia, who is Argentinian and has actually coached the Argentine national team a long time ago. But this is remarkable. This is a team that won the silver medal in 2019. They are a powerhouse of basketball since really when you go back to 2002 and beyond. They have just been dominating international basketball, and for them not to make it.
What do you think happened? What do you think happened?
Well, I don't know. You look at their team, and they had some NBA stars on their team.
A little bit older, guys that are a little bit older.
Well, maybe Louis Scolia was not there. Now he is
staple,
a freak, and has been around, and he was a big part of it at 42. I think he was in his 40s in 2019 when they were so great. So losing him, but they still had enough talent that they should have been there. And for whatever reason, you know, with the process now that you've got to go through, sometimes you don't have all those superstar players. You miss a few here or there, and in that zone, it can get a little tough.
Well, the main thing is the Aussies are through. Now, speaking of other exciting basketball, college basketball, we all love it here. March Madness is about to start. Of course, 68 teams duking it out for a championship. But when we talk about college basketball, you can catch it right here on ESPN. And here's a quick look at some exciting stuff so far. NBA action coming your way on Thursday right here on ESPN. We start with the battle in the East as the Cavs and Celtics go head-to-head. Then it's Dame's Blazers up against the Pelicans. Can New Orleans put a stop to Dame time, or will he go again on another tear? Find out right here on ESPN. Hey, we need to talk about the one and only Dylan Brooks for the Memphis Grizzlies, because he was headlining the NBA today wearing this. Copes, you're our fashionista.
Wow.
Can you pull that look off, Copes?
Let me tell you something, bro.
What is that? He's got seatbelts on his...
He needs to take it off. What do you mean pull it off?
Look at the rig, though. Nice.
Well, that is a good way to
Got it. See you in that?
jump.
Can we see you in that?
Three
Well, I
mulling
still got
over
it.
whether or
You
not
could do
any
it,
of them
actually.
can
just
pull
got-
it off,
Gazey,
and the answer
You just
is
got
no.
one.
I think Gazey could pull
You
it
got
off.
a one pack. I got a 3 or 4 pack. You're one.